a sleepy historian's night tour, forgotten facts, and calming curiosities. This soothing historical journey gently unveils the quiet lives of ancient professions, often forgotten. The curious and strict food laws that shaped medieval daily life, and the fascinating, sometimes quirky systems of ancient measurements. It explores the mysterious history behind the universal act of yawning, the timeless art of doing nothing embraced across cultures, and the serene beauty of the world's most peaceful places. Each part invites listeners to slow down, reflect, and drift peacefully into sleep, wrapped in gentle stories that connect us softly to humanity's past. Part 1. Boring Ancient Professions. The soft light of dawn creeps slowly over the ancient city, washing the worn stones with pale gold. As the streets begin to stir, the market wakes with murmurs, footsteps, and the distant crow of a rooster. Yet, it is not the merchants or the warriors who shape the heartbeat of this day. It is the quiet hands, the steady rhythm of those who work in shadows and silence. Among them is the wax tablet maker, whose fingers shape the soft wax into smooth canvases for words yet to be written. His work is humble, but essential. Without him, messages would not travel, laws would remain unread, and history itself would lose its voice. Near the river, the reed cutter bends low, selecting the perfect stalks to be fashioned into writing, tools, mats, and baskets. His work is repetitive, methodical, and often overlooked, yet it forms the backbone of daily life. Further still, the lamp oil collector moves quietly through the fields, gathering seeds and fruits, from which the precious oils are pressed. These oils will fuel the lights that chase away the darkness of night and keep scholars reading ancient scrolls. In the dusty corners of the city, the scribe's apprentice sits cross-legged, carefully grinding charcoal to the perfect fineness, mixing it with water to produce ink. This is not a hurried task, but one that demands patience and steady hands. For the ink will trace the chronicles of kings and poets alike, not far away. The cobbler shapes worn leather into sturdy sandals and boots. His hands are rough and stained, but his craft is vital. Without him, the traveler's journey would falter, the messenger's speed would slow, and the soldier's march would halt. The water carrier bears heavy jars from the river to the city's homes, a humble yet exhausting chore that ensures life's most precious resource flows freely. Each step, measured and steady, contributes to the rhythm of survival. These professions, often ignored in grand histories, form the unseen backbone of civilization. They are the steady pulses beneath the grand narratives of conquest and kingship. They teach us that history is not only shaped by the bold and loud, but also by those who move quietly, steadily, without acclaim. The wax tablet maker shapes his tools carefully, warming the beeswax until it softens, then pouring it into wooden frames. These tablets will carry letters, ledgers, and treaties. Sometimes, they will bear the tiny marks of children learning to write, their small fingers tracing letters with the stylus for the first time. The wax can be smoothed and reused, making it precious in a world without paper. The reed cutters. Day begins before dawn. He moves through the marshes, where the reeds grow tall and plentiful, slicing them carefully with a curved knife. These reeds become not only pens, but also mats for sleeping, fences for gardens, and even components in building homes. His work is a quiet contribution to the daily comfort of the city. As the sun climbs higher, the lamp oil collector's task grows more urgent. Night will come, and the oil must be ready. From poppy seeds to olives, each oil carries a distinct scent and brightness. Some oils burn with a clean flame, others produce a smoky haze. The collector knows which seeds to gather and when to press them, balancing quantity with quality. Nearby, the scribe apprentice finally holds his first finished batch of ink. It gleams deep black in the small bowl, ready for use. The ink maker's art is one of balance. Too much water, and the ink runs. Too little, and it clumps. The apprentice watches the master scribe's hand as it glides across parchment, transferring words that will outlive empires. The cobbler's shop is a quiet refuge from the city's bustle. The smell of leather mingles with the temps of dye and polish. The cobbler stretches hide over a wooden last, cutting and stitching with practiced ease. Each pair of shoes is measured carefully, molded to fit the wearer's foot. From simple sandals for farmers to elaborately embroidered boots for nobility, his craft spans all classes. Meanwhile, the water carrier's path winds through the city's narrow streets and over stone bridges. The jars on his back sway with the rhythm of his steps. At each stop, he pours water into basins and pots, replenishing supplies for cooking, cleaning, and drinking. His role is essential, but his name forgotten. Evening approaches, and the city's shadows deepen. Lamps lit with carefully collected oils glow softly in windows and doorways. The scribes continue their work by lamplight, the wax tablets cooled and stored. The cobbler closes his shop, hands sore but satisfied. The water carrier rests beside the well, ready for another day. These quiet labors, the professions that history often overlooks, sustain the pulse of life. They remind us that every great story depends on small, steady hands, on patience, persistence, and quiet endurance. In the centuries to come, as empires rise and fall, these professions will adapt and evolve. New materials will replace old, new tools will be invented, but the core of their work remains unchanged. They are the silent keepers of civilization's daily breath. And so, as you drift to sleep, imagine the gentle rhythm of the wax tablet, maker's hands, the whisper of reeds swaying in the morning breeze, the soft glow of oil lamps in the night, and the steady footsteps of the water carrier. In the quiet, you hear history breathing. Part 2. Forgotten medieval food laws in the early morning light of a small medieval village. The baker's ovens are already warm. The scent of freshly baked bread drifts lazily on the breeze, weaving through the streets and winding around timbered houses. But this simple pleasure, bread, was once the subject of many rules and regulations, designed to protect the town's health, economy, and order. Medieval food laws were often strict, but rarely exciting, designed to ensure fairness and to keep the peace. The weight of a loaf, the price of a pennyworth of cheese, or even the size of a fish caught in the local river all were matters of law and watchful oversight. The baker, steady and unhurried, carefully measures his dough. Too heavy, and he risks punishment for cheating the customers. Too light, and the bread will not feed the hungry mouths of the village. Town officials sometimes made surprise visits, their eyes sharp and their hands ready to seize any loaf that did not meet the standard. In the bustling marketplace, vendors laid out their goods under the watchful gaze of the market reeve. There were laws to prevent hoarding, price gouging, and selling spoiled food. A fish seller caught with stale catch might be fined or forced to make public apology, while a cheesemonger selling watered-down milk cheese faced the town's scorn and penalty. Many food laws also stemmed from deeper concerns about health and morality. For example, meat could only be sold fresh and in limited quantities. The medieval diet was heavily influenced by religious fasting rules, which forbade meat on certain days. Fish became the preferred alternative, leading to its own set of regulations on fishing seasons and sizes. It was not uncommon for guilds to form around trades like butchery or baking, setting strict rules about who could produce what and how. The guilds protected their crafts and guarded the secrets of their recipes. Membership was a privilege and a responsibility, binding bakers and butchers to uphold the town's laws and standards. In some towns, there were laws even about the color and shape of bread. White bread, made from finely sifted flour, was often reserved for the wealthy, while darker, coarser breads were for the common folk. Yet bakers could be punished for trying to pass off one type as the other, deceiving customers for higher profits. Seasonal festivals and feasts brought their own rules. During celebrations, greater quantities of meat, ale, and sweetened pastries might be allowed, but excess remained frowned upon. The church watched carefully, condemning gluttony and urging temperance, even as it blessed the abundance. At the edge of town, the dairymaid tends to her herd, mindful of the curfews on milking times and the regulations on selling butter and cheese. Some towns required that butter be salted to preserve it, while others mandated that cheese be aged a certain length before sale. The dairymaid knows that a slip in these rules could mean ruin, not only for her reputation, but for the entire village's food supply. Meanwhile, in the cellar beneath the Lord's manor, the steward carefully records the quantities of wine and ale, ensuring the Lord's household adheres to laws on storage and consumption. Even the measurement of grains was regulated, with bushels and pecks defined by exact standards to prevent cheating. Perhaps one of the most curious laws was about the communal ovens. In many villages, baking was a shared task. Households would bring their dough to a common oven, often owned by the lord or the village. There were rules about oven use, timing, and payment. A family arriving late or overstaying could be fined or scolded, for the oven's heat was precious and shared by many. In some places, the smell of bread baking itself was thought to carry blessings, and so it was forbidden to waste any part of the dough. Leftover scraps were carefully saved to feed animals or made into simple cakes for children. The slow pace of the village day was marked by these food laws, which wove themselves quietly into the fabric of daily life, though they may seem tedious now. These regulations served as the unseen threads holding community life together, ensuring fairness, safety, and order in times when food was precious and hard. 1. As evening falls and the last light fades, families gather around hearths, breaking bread that was measured, weighed, and made under the watchful eyes of the village. Each bite is a reminder of the laws that protect not just the food, but the people themselves. So as you settle into rest, imagine the careful hands of the baker, the watchful eyes of the market reeve, and the quiet diligence of the dairymaid. Feel the gentle rhythm of a village held together not by grand battles, but by the steady rules that govern the breaking of bread. In these forgotten laws, there is a quiet history, soft and unassuming, waiting to lull you to sleep. Part 3. Ancient measurements and weird weights in the early light of the day. Long before clocks and rulers as we know them, people learned to measure the world around them. But their units were often not neat numbers or standard tools, but rather parts of the human body or objects they saw daily. These ancient measurements, sometimes strange and sometimes charmingly imprecise, shaped trade, construction, and everyday life in ways most of us no longer notice. Imagine a craftsman in a small village. He does not have a metal ruler, but instead uses the length of his forearm to measure wood. This unit, called a cubit, was one of the oldest and most common forms of measurement in the ancient world. Though it varied from place to place and person to person, it was familiar and always at hand. Not far from him, a farmer measures the field with steps. The pace, a unit known simply as the pace, was roughly the distance from heel to heel when walking. It's an unpretentious unit, simple enough to use without tools. Yet it formed the basis for selling land and planning irrigation in Mesopotamia. The weight of grain was not measured in kilograms or pounds, but in shekels, minas, and talents unit. That sound like whispers from an old story. A talent could be as heavy as 30 kilograms or more, depending on the region. But it was a standard measure for large quantities, like tribute or trade. Small weights were often made of stone or metal, carved or shaped into recognizable forms. Some were shaped like animals or coins, others were simple geometric shapes. Merchants would carefully balance these weights on scales, trading with a mixture of trust and suspicion. knowing that cheating could mean exile, or worse, across the Nile. The ancient Egyptians used their own system. The palm, the width of a hand without the thumb, was a basic unit of length. 10 palms made a cubit, and 24 cubits made a royal cubit, used for building temples and monuments. Each measurement was carefully defined by royal decree, often inscribed on stone standards kept in temples. Weights were also standardized. The deben, a unit of weight, was used for metals and goods. They were small, heavy pieces of stone or metal, carefully crafted to balance perfectly on the scale. Further east in China, units of measurement were even more complex. The Chinese qi, often translated as a foot, varied over time, but was closely linked to the body. There were also measures for volume, like the sheng, used for rice and grain, and the jin, a unit of weight that influenced markets and taxes. What is fascinating is how these units were not fixed numbers, but lived and changed with culture, time, and place. They were intimately connected to the people who used them, rather than abstract numbers disconnected from daily life. The story of measurement is also a story of control and power. Kings and emperors would set official standards, often housed in temples or palaces, to ensure fairness and to assert their authority. A merchant using a false weight was not just cheating a customer, but defying the order of the realm. In some cities, these official standards were kept under lock and key, brought out for inspection by market officials. If a dispute arose, these standards would be the final word. Even the humble bread loaf was measured carefully. Bakers used specific weights to determine the size and price of each loaf. If the bread was too light, it was considered cheating. In England, during the medieval period, there were laws called the Assize of Bread and Ale, which regulated bread weights and prices, punishable by fines or public humiliation. The story of measurement is not just about numbers. It is about trust, commerce, and the subtle rules that keep society moving smoothly. Without common measures, trade would falter, buildings would crumble, and chaos might reign. And so, as the sun rises higher, the craftsman finishes his measuring, the merchant weighs his goods, and the farmer walks the length of his field, counting paces. All these actions, seemingly ordinary and slow, are part of a grand story of how people made sense of the world and made it theirs. Imagine these ancient units as soft pulses of rhythm, forearms, footsteps, grains balanced on scales, each marking a beat in the quiet song of history. As you close your eyes, feel the gentle weight of the cubit, the slow step of the pace, the quiet balance of the scale. Let these old measures carry you into dreams of ancient marketplaces, sun-drenched fields, and temples rising slowly into the sky. Asterisk. Part 4. The history of yawning. There is perhaps no more universal human action than the yawn. From the quietest infant to the most powerful emperor, the slow, deep inhale and open-mouthed exhale of a yawn has connected us all for millennia. But yawning is more than just a sign of tiredness or boredom. It has a rich and curious history that stretches back into ancient times, wrapped in mystery and whispered meaning. In the earliest civilizations, yawning was often seen as a sign of spirit or soul movement. Ancient Greeks believed that a yawn allowed the soul to leave the body briefly, or to call upon gods for protection. Sometimes it was thought to expel evil spirits or bring fresh air into the lungs and mind. Philosophers such as Aristotle pondered yawning with gentle curiosity, observing it as a natural sign of life's rhythms, the ebb and flow of energy and rest. Even in ancient medical texts, yawning was noted as a sign of health or imbalance. In many cultures, yawns were contagious, but they also carried social weight. To yawn openly in the presence of elders was sometimes seen as disrespectful, yet hiding a yawn was tiring in itself. Monks and scholars, who spent long hours in silent contemplation, often recorded yawns as moments of fatigue and mental release. Yet, these moments could also bring clarity, as the deep breath refreshed the mind and body. Beyond the human realm, animals yawn as well. Ancient storytellers noticed this and wove it into myths and fables. Lions, dogs, and even fish yawned, suggesting a shared experience between humans and the natural world. In some traditions, yawning was thought to predict weather changes or signal the presence of unseen spirits. It was both a mundane action and a sign from the unknown. Medical understanding of yawning remained limited for centuries. It was often linked to sleepiness or boredom, but also to illness or spiritual weakness. In the 18th and 19th centuries, scientists began studying yawning more seriously, noting its contagious nature and connection to brain cooling. This is a modern discovery, yet, even today, the exact reasons for yawning remain partly mysterious. The history of yawning is a soft, slow story of connection between body and mind, people and animals, the known and unknown. So next time you yawn, know that you are participating in a long, quiet tradition stretching back thousands of years. Small, gentle reminder of our shared humanity and the rhythms that move us through the day. As you listen to this story, allow your own yawns to come and go. Let the slow breath of a yawn guide you toward rest, toward peace, and toward the gentle silence of sleep. Part 5. The Art of Doing Nothing. Through the ages, in the quiet corners of human history, there lies a surprisingly rich tradition, the art of doing nothing, a practice not born of laziness, but of reflection, rest, and sometimes quiet rebellion against the busy rhythms of life. Across cultures and centuries, people have found value in stillness, in moments where time seems to pause and the world slows to a whisper. In ancient Greece, the word shoal meant leisure, but not just rest. It meant the freedom to think, to converse, and to be present without the constant demands of work. Philosophers like Socrates and Plato encouraged their students to embrace such moments, seeing idle time as essential to learning and wisdom. In those long days, walking through olive groves or sitting by the sea, the Greeks found inspiration, not in doing, but in being. Far to the east, in ancient China, the practice of Wu Wei encouraged action through inaction, an effortless way of moving in harmony with the world. Taoist teachings suggested that sometimes the best way to achieve is simply to flow with the natural rhythms, allowing things to unfold without force. This quiet acceptance was not surrender, but a profound engagement with life's subtle balance. Medieval European monk might have seemed busy in prayer and work, yet the Lectio Divina, the sacred reading, was a form of contemplative idleness. Slowly reading and rereading sacred texts, monks found stillness and peace in the repetition, letting the words settle deeply into the soul. Even the silence in the cloister was a practice of presence, a restful pause from the noisy world outside. In the courts of Renaissance Europe, where activity and display often ruled, there were still moments of quiet reflection, gentle walks through gardens, the leisurely appreciation of art, or the simple act of sitting in stillness were cherished. These small pockets of calm nurtured creativity and connection, even amid the bustle of politics and intrigue. In more recent centuries, the idea of doing nothing evolved with new meanings. Romantic poets celebrated the beauty of idle afternoons by the river, and philosophers pondered the value of rest in an increasingly industrial world. Yet, even as clocks ticked faster and cities grew louder, people returned again and again to the simple art of stillness, finding in it a balm for the weary soul. Today, in a world of constant motion, the art of doing nothing feels almost revolutionary. It invites us to pause, breathe, and simply be. Imagine yourself in a quiet garden, the sun warm on your skin, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. There is no need to hurry, no task pressing. You are free to rest, to dream, to listen. This art of doing nothing, woven through the ages, teaches us that sometimes the greatest action is simply to rest. It reminds us that life's quiet moments are not wasted, but are sacred. So, as you drift toward sleep, let go of busyness. Allow yourself the gift of stillness, the calm rhythm of a world slowing down. In the silence, you find peace. Part 6. History of the most peaceful places on earth. Imagine a place where time moves slowly, where the noise of the world fades into a gentle hum, and peace seems woven into the very air. Throughout history, certain places have earned reputations, not for battles or upheavals, but for their calm, their sanctuary, and their quiet beauty. These peaceful places have offered refuge, rest, and reflection to countless generations, becoming living reminders that even amid human struggle, calm and peace endure. One such place is the ancient Japanese village of Shirakawaga, nestled in a valley surrounded by mountains. Its thatched roof houses, built centuries ago, stand as quiet sentinels to a way of life that honors nature and community. In winter, the snow blankets the village in a soft, white silence, and the slow, steady rhythm of daily life carries on, undisturbed. For the villagers, peace is found in the harmony of seasons, the careful tending of rice paddies, and the warm glow of hearth fires at night. Far away, the deserts of Oman hold an ancient peace. The vast sands stretch endlessly under a wide sky, where time seems to ripple like a gentle breeze. Bedouin tribes have wandered these lands for centuries, finding tranquility in the slow dance of shifting dunes and star-filled nights. The desert teaches patience and resilience, whispering the secrets of endurance and quiet strength. In Europe, the hilltop town of Assisi, in Italy, offers a different kind of peace. Famous as the home of St. Francis, it has long been a place where spirituality and simplicity intertwine. The gentle streets wind between stone houses, and the soft chants of prayer echo from ancient churches. Pilgrims come here seeking calm, walking slowly beneath cypress trees and olive groves, their hearts lightened by the serene atmosphere. Further north, the fjords of Norway carve through the rugged landscape, their deep waters reflecting soaring cliffs and quiet forests. These dramatic natural wonders inspire awe, but also invite stillness. Fishermen and villagers have long lived in harmony with the land and sea, their lives marked by the tides and the seasons. The fjords remind us that peace can be found in the embrace of nature's grandeur. Across the ocean, the islands of the Maldives offer crystal clear waters and gentle waves. For centuries, fishermen and islanders have lived with the rhythms of the sea, their days punctuated by the rising and setting sun. The soft sound of waves and the warm tropical breeze soothe the soul, creating a timeless sanctuary. Here, peace is both a gift and a way of life. These places, diverse in landscape and culture, share a common thread. They offer refuge from the noise of the world, places where the heart can slow and the mind can rest. They remind us that peace is not just a state of being but a place we can seek, nurture, and return to again and again. As night falls and you settle into rest, imagine yourself in one of these peaceful places, the snow softly falling on a mountain village, the endless sands shimmering under stars, the gentle waves lapping on a tropical shore. Feel the calm settle in your body, the steady rhythm of breath, the soft beat of your heart. Here, in these quiet places, history whispers its gentlest stories. May your dreams carry you there.